Hello again. It's been a while. Probably shouldn't have left you without some good science to live to, but I'm back. And this time I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. Now, I'm a scientist by background, but I'm also an engineer. And engineers, if you haven't heard, we do a lot of math. And one thing that math is really important for is your money. Now, I was inspired recently by a viral post that I saw on Instagram where somebody asked the question, would you rather have $7,000 per week for life or $30 million up front right now? Now, there's a lot of ways to think about this, and it may seem like a simple answer for some people, but if you're like less money inclined, this is important for you to better understand how to answer this question. So I'm going to break this down with a little bit of math so that we can really determine what the answer to this question is. So one way to think about this, which is one of the things that people have brought up at first, is so let's think about 30 million. And how many years would it take you to get 30 million if you were getting 7,000 per week for life? So basically, let's take the 30 mil, and then we want to divide that by the 7,000 per week. So there's about 52.2 weeks in a year. So if you multiply that by 7, that's about $365,000 a year. Or another way to think about it is $1,000 per day. So that's about $365,000. So we want to divide 30 million by 365K per year. Now, if you do that math, that's going to be about 82.2 years. So, unless you're going to live for 82 more years, you're never going to make 30 million if you're taking $7,000 per week for life. So that's one way to think about it. But this misses a major point, which is really the more important thing to think about when you're comparing these two scenarios. So the thing you really want to think about is this concept called the time value of money. Now, you may have heard people say this before and ask the question, well, what the heck does that even mean? So another way to think about it is there's a saying that people, were saying a while ago, and that is that yesterday's price is not today's price. So one way to think about that is what it means is that everything that you have to buy in life is going to be more expensive at some time in the future. So an easy example of that are gas prices. Let's say about a year ago, the average tank of gas might have been about $3.39. I looked it up. So this was in 2011. Sorry, 2021, about a year ago. So today, that same gallon of gas in 2022 is about $3.77. So that means if you had $60 to fill up your car, then last year you were going to be able to get more gas out of that same $60. So there's another way to think about this as well, because it's not just about how the amount of things you can buy with that money decreases. It also tells you what you can do with your money when you have a large lump sum like 30 million. Because what you don't want to do is just put it in a box and hide it somewhere in your house. When you have this lump sum of money and you don't need to spend it all at once, you can put it away and invest it. Now, the whole concept of investing, that can get complicated. So we're going to simplify it a bit. We're talking about one of the simplest ways that a lot of people do investments. So one of the things that you can think about, you can invest in a stock, you can buy a bond from, you can get a bond from the government, you can invest that way, And you can also, like, buy assets that appreciate, like certain types of jewelry, fancy watch. But one of the simplest and easiest ways are index funds. So what an index fund is basically a group of people, they put their money together and they have a professional money manager who does investments with that large lump sum. So one of the most famous index funds, or the most ones you hear about a lot, is the S&P 500. And so this is an index of 500 of the largest or best performing publicly traded companies, and you can invest your money in this index fund. So one thing to think about is, how does money grow in that index fund? And you can look at the history of like the S&P 500, and you can look back, say, 65 years. And if you take and look at per year on average, how much did this index fund grow? That was about 11.9%. And if you look at a shorter time period, let's say 30 years, the past 30 years, on average, this was about 10.7%, I believe. So, and one thing to keep in mind is this is a fairly simple, fairly reliable, easy investment to make. Now, say you're like, more risk averse, you don't want to mess with the stock market. There's lots of ways to invest money. Another thing you can think about is a money market account. And these are just, these are accounts that are run by banks that give you a higher return than normal. Now, normally you still only get about less than 1% on your money, but in times like today when interest rates are pretty high and inflation is high, then that means that you can get more bang for your buck with something like a money market account. So if you look up how they're doing right now, the best money market accounts will give you what they call an annual percentage rate, which tells you in a year's time how much will your money grow. That's about 3%. So this is one of the safest investments to slightly more risky, but still relatively safe and reliable investments that are very easy to set up, that you can basically figure this out in a day or a couple of hours. You can figure out how to put some of your money into these types of accounts. Now, you may not put all your money in one place, not all of your money in one type of account, but let's just pick a number as an estimate. So with all this in mind, you can safely say that you can expect over a long period of time, you should be able to get at least 4% return on investment money, easily. This is not hard to achieve. It's not complicated to achieve. You can do it just by investing in index funds and even maybe putting some money in a money market account. This is easily achievable. Anybody can do that. So let's think about the scenario here. So say you have 30 million. Let's not even use all of that. Let's say I want to wild out and I want to blow $20 million just buying whatever the heck I want. But I'm going to save 10 million of it. So if you take that 10 million and you invest it and you can get 4% return, that means that on average per year, you're going to make $400,000. Now this is simple. This is not even compounding your interest. This is basically, if you put in 10 million over a year's time, you make about 4%. You take out 400,000 to live off of, you still have 10 million, and then in a year's time you make another 4%. Now this is on average. There's going to be some years that are better than this, some years that are less, but on average over a long period of time, you'll be able to achieve this. So if you think about that, this $400,000 a year, is more, significantly more than 365,000. In fact, if we were to break this up over a week's time, like say the roughly 52.2 weeks in a year, that means you're actually getting about $7,600 per week. So with that in mind, this isn't even the question that you're really asking. So if you just take 10 million of that 20 million and simply invest it, you're not making a choice between $7,000 per week for life or $30 million now. What you're really deciding is, do you want 20 million now plus $7,600 per week for life? And this is a no-brainer. And that's about it.